For the next 5 years, Napoleon governed France with a furious energy that seems, in retrospect, almost superhuman. He reformed the legal system, the Napoleonic Code, which he largely drafted himself in late-night working sessions, became the basis of civil law in dozens of countries, and remains influential today. He reorganized the French educational system, the banking system, the tax system, the roads. He modernized the administrative structure of France so thoroughly that many of his reforms are still, in their basic shape, in place in France today. In 1804, he made himself emperor. In a ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, attended with considerable reluctance by Pope Pius VII, Napoleon took the crown from the Pope's hands and crowned himself. The symbolism was unmistakable. No one gave him his power. He had taken it. Europe watched, appalled and fascinated. The perfect battle on December 2nd, 1805, the first anniversary of his coronation, Napoleon fought what is widely considered the greatest battle in the history of warfare. The Austrians and Russians had combined against him. Their joint army outnumbered Napoleon's force at the village of Austerlitz in Moravia. The Allied commanders were confident. They held the high ground, the Pratzen Heights, and their plan was to swing around Napoleon's right flank and cut him off. Napoleon had anticipated exactly this plan. He had deliberately weakened his right flank to encourage the attack. He had deliberately appeared to be in trouble, retreating slightly, asking for an armistice, projecting vulnerability, to encourage Allied confidence. And he had secretly concentrated his best troops in the center. When the Allies stripped the Pratzen Heights to strengthen their attacking left wing, he struck the heights with everything he had. The Allied army was cut in two. Napoleon proceeded to destroy each half in turn. The battle lasted less than a day. The Allied army lost a third of its strength. The Holy Roman Empire, a 1,000-year-old institution, was dissolved weeks later. Napoleon stood on the Pratzen Heights as the sun set, surveying the wreckage of two of Europe's greatest armies, and said simply, "It is the finest evening of my life." The cracks in the marble at the height of his power. Napoleon controlled most of continental Europe, and yet, even at the summit, the cracks were forming. Spain became a bleeding wound. In 1808, Napoleon forced the abdication of the Spanish royal family and placed his brother Joseph on the Spanish throne. The Spanish people rose in revolt, not as an organized army that could be defeated in a single battle, but as a guerrilla insurgency that could not be defeated at all. The word guerrilla little war entered the European vocabulary as a direct result of this conflict. French armies in Spain won every pitched battle and lost the war anyway. The Spanish ulcer, as Napoleon himself called it, drained French strength for 6 years. His continental system, a trade blockade designed to strangle Britain economically, hurt France's own allies more than it hurt Britain, turning willing partners into resentful subjects. And in 1809, Napoleon divorced Josephine, the woman he truly loved, to marry an Austrian archduchess for dynastic reasons. A son was born in 1811, but something in Napoleon had changed. Josephine, writing to a friend after the divorce, said simply, "He will never be happy again." She may have been right. Russia, the beginning of the end in June 1812. Napoleon led the largest army ever assembled in European history into Russia. The Grand Army, over 600,000 men, crossed the Niemen River into Russian territory on a warm summer morning. It would be the greatest military disaster in history. The Russians refused to fight the decisive battle Napoleon needed. They retreated, burned their own crops and villages, and drew the French deeper into an enormous hostile country. At Borodino in September, 70,000 men fell in a single day, and the Russians retreated again. Napoleon entered Moscow to find it abandoned and burning. He waited 5 weeks for the Russians to ask for terms. No message came. He retreated. The Russian winter descended, temperatures plunging to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Cossack cavalry harassed the columns constantly. Men froze to death standing. Horses collapsed and were eaten immediately.